In today's episode, I get to talk about two of my most favourite things, beers and beatdowns. Well, one out of two ain't bad. Beers and beatdowns, welcome to Engage.
How's it going?
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely my pleasure. So we've got Brewski Blanch and Dangerous Danny Owens. Beers and Beatdowns, a well-recognised tag team from the South Wales wrestling scene. Two veterans from the South Wales wrestling scene, actually. And you might not be pleased to hear that between you, you've got about 40 years of wrestling experience between you.
Yeah.
How old does that make you feel?
Makes him feel really old.
It does. I'm only 32, so.
And we're all about firsts here on the Engage show, and I am pleased to announce that this is the very first three-way that we've had on Engage. I've never tackled two guests before, so this is a first time for me, but I can't think of two people who I'd rather share this earth-moving moment with. So thank you both for joining me on the show today and agreeing to talk about your 2 decades each of wrestling in the South Wales and beyond scene. And I know that you've also got some details of a show that we can also talk about on the show today. So I know we've got a ton to talk about. So first of all, I want to talk about the show that you're involved with very briefly. I know, Dan, you're the man who's behind Pro Wrestling Karnage, and you've actually got a show coming up this Saturday, which is going to be Saturday the 23rd of April. Now, I do want to talk about Pro Wrestling Karnage and the show in a lot more detail a bit later on, but just for now, can you give us a bit of information on where the show is, how people can get tickets, and if you can tell us a little bit about who's featuring in the main event?
Yeah, so we've got Caiman versus Mark Daniels in the main event for the heavyweight title. It's in Pencoed Welfare Hall, which isn't too far from Bridgend. Is classed as Bridgend, but it's just outside, if that makes sense. You can get tickets if you visit the Pro Wrestling Karnage Facebook page. All the links are on there to the Eventbrite ticket site where you can buy tickets.
Okay, awesome. Now, you two, you have got perhaps the finest bromance in the South Wales wrestling scene, but remarkably, even though you've known each other for approximately the past 20 years, it's only been quite recently that you've been best bros. So what I thought would be interesting is to kind of talk about that in a bit more detail here on the show today, just to find out where your paths crossed and all of that kind of thing, because it really is a fascinating story overall. But before we get into that, what I want to find out from you first of all is just some of your early memories of wrestling, and because there is a bit of an age difference between you as well, I think it's going to be quite interesting to find out, who you admired and that kind of thing as you were growing up watching wrestling. So can you give us some info on who you used to watch growing up?
I think I'll start because when I watched wrestling, it was in black and white. So obviously I'm a little bit older than Dan, and yeah, so when I started watching wrestling, it was like end of the 80s, and I was a really big Jake the Snake Roberts fan. Jake was the man when I was a kid. I wasn't really into Hogan and Warrior for some reason. I just thought Jake was ace. As it went through to the early 90s, the British Bulldog reappeared as Davey Boy Smith, and being a British kid, it was like, yeah, Davey Boy Smith was the one, because he was a British bloke, wasn't he? So yeah, him and Bret Hart, but Jake was always the man, and I really, really enjoyed Bobby Heenan as a manager, even though you're not meant to, because he's a bad guy. He just always made me laugh. So it was always maybe that few, maybe Mr. Perfect when he was a good guy, which wasn't very often. But yeah, I was more of a mid-card guy. I used to love watching the Intercontinental matches. Like Bret Hart versus, say, Rick Martel was always great. Just matches like that I always preferred. Like when we were kids, used to make up little bouts and cut out cardboard and stuff or whatever. I was always the IC champ. My mate was always the heavyweight champ and I was the IC, and I was quite happy with that. So, but yeah, it then changed it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always used to love Bobby Heenan as well. He's a very funny guy. Watching his commentary, and I suppose then later Jerry Lawler, who was kind of a similar kind of delivery when he was doing the commentating. But yeah, I really enjoyed his style of commentary. He's always very, very funny. So what about yourself then, Danny?
I started watching in about '98, and just as The Rock and Austin and Triple H and all those guys were sort of getting big, I loved The Rock, I loved Austin, so they were my go-to guys. I hated The Rock when he became Hollywood Rock, after the Mummy, what was it, the Scorpion King.
Scorpion King.
I hated him, but like as I've got older and I've gone back, like Flair's the man. Flair is my all-time favourite, without a doubt.
I remember when I was younger, so going back, say about 11, I think I was 11 when he first came into WWE, and when he was involved in the Undertaker Hulk Hogan match, when Undertaker beat Hulk Hogan for the title, and later then when he won the Royal Rumble. And at the time I didn't like him, but I think at the time I didn't really get it and didn't understand what he was doing. But when you look back at what he was doing, he was amazing at what he did.
I think because when we came into the business as well, it was a bit. We were always told to watch like the NWA, like the end of the '80s NWA. So that was always our like go-to study as well, because it was different to WWE. It was more the wrestling thing, and so yeah, it goes back to the end. That's still the stuff that we watch now.
Yeah.
We watch like the Horseman, Magnum TA, and any Flair, Steamboat. You know, we always kind of go back to that stuff for study as well. So
It's because I think they're all wrestling matches rather than TV matches, if that makes sense. So you can actually pick apart the matches, where on TV you've got ad breaks and stuff, and you know when they go into an ad break because someone gets thrown out of the ring. So yeah, I think is because they're all in one shot and you can watch it all the way through without it being adverts in between. I think is easier to be able to pick apart little bits of the match and what works and what doesn't, sort of thing.
yeah, and I think it comes down to where they worked as well in NWA. It was literally the working aspect was more. So like when Dusty was on fire, you know. So it was, you learn how to take things apart and see why and where they do things. So that's what we've always been brought up to watch that kind of era.
Was there any match in particular for either of you where you thought, well, I'm not just a fan here, but I really love wrestling and this is something that I want to get involved with myself?
Yeah, mine was a late night getting home from work
No, yours.
and looking for something to watch while I was making some food, and the Royal Rumble 2000 was on. Now, bearing in mind I'd not watched wrestling for a long time at this point, and I just had it on in the background while I was cooking some dinner, and then a promo with Cactus Jack versus Triple H for the street fight in the garden. That happened, and I sat eating my dinner, watching it, and I was blown away. And I was like, this is incredible. Because I had no idea who Triple H was. I didn't know who Mankind was, but I knew who Cactus Jack Manson was from back in the early WCW. So I was like, that was it. That was the match that changed it all. So
Mine was The Rock and Austin at Mania 17.
oh, Mania 17.
Mania 17. That was the match that made me love wrestling and think I'd love to be able to do it. I didn't think I ever would, but that was the match that was like, I'd love to be able to do something like this. I loved the story of that match, and I liked the fact that I could probably hit people with chairs and get away with it, which is always fun.
And how old are you when you watched that match? Because I'm aware that you would have been quite young in 1998, but perhaps the Attitude Era would have been a bit inappropriate for a pair of young eyes to be watching.
I was 7 or 8. It would have been April-ish time, wouldn't it, Mania? So I would have been a 7. But I hadn't long started watching. It was just before that. I said 98 I started watching. It was obviously earlier. But yeah, I'd started watching just before that because a mate lent me a tape because I didn't know what the hell wrestling was. And he lent me a tape and I watched what's the politically correct word for small people? Small people? I watched a small person match. And it was like a mini Gold Dust and some others on there. And I thought they were children. And I was like, I could do this. But the match with Rock and Austin I thought was amazing.
For yourself then, Blanche, how old are you when you watched that 2002 match then? And then what year, or was it the same year that you decided that you were going to get into wrestling?
So the Rumble 2000, I would have been 17. Yeah, I was 17. And I got into training, and I got to start meeting people at the end of that year, but I didn't get into the ring until 2001. So yeah, so just around about a year, but it was like I was training in the gym quite a lot anyway, and I was in good shape, and people meeting the right people in the gym and stuff, and then kind of got my foot in the door then by meeting certain wrestlers. So
yeah, I'm aware you went through a lengthy and rigorous training process before you stepped foot in the wrestling ring
yes.
for the first time. Can you let everybody know how long that period of time was?
So like through a friend of mine, I met a wrestler and we got talking at a show that I went to see, and he said, come on to this show in a couple of weeks and we'll get you in the ring and see how you get on. So I met him, went to the show. Before the show started, I got in the ring, and for 2 hours I got beat up for 2 hours. Very much enjoyed it. I learned how to bump, run the ropes, and I was apparently picking it up quite quickly. That was a Saturday. On the Wednesday I had a phone call saying, would you like to be in a show on Friday? So it was within 6 days, after 2 hours, I was in a show.
And can you remember that first experience in the ring?
Yes. I was wearing a red mask with black martial arts style trousers. I was in much better shape than I am now, so I didn't look too bad. And it was a rumble spot, and it was in Birmingham. It was in a little town called Canton, which is just outside Birmingham, I think. Yeah. And it was for K-Star Wrestling, which was owned by Steve Logan, the World of Sport guy. Steve Logan, who used to run a kickboxing school, and they had a promotion there. And I was in the rumble for a grand total of about 4 minutes, and I was thrown out pretty quickly after getting beaten up quite a little bit. But it was really good.
And for you, Dan, then yours was a bit different. So Blanche was about 18, but you were involved with wrestling a lot younger than that. I remember when we spoke previously, when we met at an event a few weeks ago, you said that you'd been involved in wrestling for 20 years, which I found a bit surprising initially, but that would have made you 11 when you first got started. So how did that all come about?
My friend found a training school in Cardiff and messaged the guy that was running it, Caiman, and he was like, yeah, come on down, you're a bit young, you're 11, so we can't train you until you're 12. But this was probably the middle of October. My birthday's on the 28th of October, so he was like, we got a show on the 29th, come to the show, have a watch, and we'll go from there. So we went, we had a chat with him at the show, and then the following Sunday we went to training, and yeah, I was hooked straight away. The first training session, I remember learning how to lock up, to start with, and finding it hilarious. I think because when I get nervous, I could be in the most serious situation, but I'll laugh. The nervous thing that I have, I laugh at stupid times. So I was locking up and laughing. I think he told me to stop laughing, and he was like, "This is serious," and I'm like, "Okay." This 6'6" guy at 12. My mate that come with me, he was already about 6'1", and I was about 5'4", so I was tiny. So I pooped my pants a little bit when he told me off, and he was like, "This is serious," and I was like, "Right, okay."
And how long was it then before you actually had your first match then, if you started at 11 but they weren't able to train you until you were 12? Presumably you had more than 6 days notice.
I did, yeah. I did.
6 years, didn't you?
Yeah, I had about 6 years. No, I had my first match. I can't remember the month. I'm gonna say 15. It was a handicap match, so it was me and another trainee called Ed. We worked under masks as a tag team called Topsy Turvy. I think I was Turvy. I think.
Always Turvy.
And we worked a handicap match against Death Row. Now I knew Death Row because I trained with him in the same facility and stuff. So I was okay with working Death Row, even though he's a big dude. But yeah, everything felt great. I've got the video of my match, and I watch it back and I cringe because there's no crowd work at all. There's just me coming out, crapping my pants, going around the ring and getting in and waiting for Death Row to come out to beat me up. But yeah, the match went okay for what it was. It was just Death Row beating us both up. But he got out of the ring at one point, and I went out to the ring to get him. I was standing on the apron. He swiped my legs and then got me into a powerbomb position, but I was my body was coming out rather than me sitting up. And then he just swung me into the ring post, which felt fine. That was okay. That wasn't the worst part. But then as soon as I hit that ring post, he dropped me, and I just took my first back bump in my first match on concrete. So that was fun.
But at this point, you hadn't met because Blanche, you were based up in Worcester while Dan was based here in South Wales.
I think I met Dan down the road because Dan used to do quite a lot of ring jobs. And so when I'd be working on shows in Wales or wherever, and Dan was normally around for certain promotions doing the sound or putting the ring up and stuff. So I met Dan when he was about maybe 13.
13, yeah.
So he was one of the ring guys, and everyone knew him. Everyone knew Little Smurf. So he was one of the lads. So we all looked after him, and yeah, we all just everyone knew him. He was part of the team. So.
And at that point then, Blanche, were you wrestling, or had you already stepped into the managerial role?
I was doing a bit of both, to be honest. If I wasn't booked on the show as a wrestler, I normally got on as a manager. My first few matches that I'd say were a bit more noticeable were when I was actually managing some champions for some promotions. I just had that look, just had the look of a manager, looked good in a suit. And I really liked doing that work, being the big Heenan fan. It was just something I really wanted to do, and I actually worked just as much wrestling as I did managing. So, as always, if I wasn't doing one, I was doing the other.
What type of manager were you then? What was the character?
I was a Weasley, tough, posh boy in a suit who was better than everybody, who cheered his guys on. They were the best thing you'd ever seen. I normally managed the champions as well, which is pretty good, so it's easier work when you've got the belt. So I managed quite a few guys from all around the UK. But then I've also managed quite bullshit guys that don't need managers, but you're just there for extra heat, so to speak. So.
And at one point you said that you were managing Titan, who's now more well known for his stint in Welsh wrestling, in a match against Dan.
Yes, our
Yeah.
only real interaction was for Celtic wrestling, and it was, I think, was it Titan's first match?
It was Titan's first match.
Titan's first match in Celtic. Or was it first match altogether?
No, I think he'd started with another company and
Yeah.
had a couple of matches there, but this was his first match for Celtic.
First match for Celtic. I went out with Titan, did a bit on the stick, and then the wrestler in the ring waiting for Titan to get in to destroy him was Dan under a mask.
Yeah. when I was the Mexican, what was my name? Ojo Azul de Nero. Because before that I was called Danny Blue Eye, and we needed to think of a Mexican name for me, or Spanish name. So I went on to Google Translate Danny Blue Eye in Spanish, come up as Ojo Azul de Nero. I was like, there it is. So I technically changed my name, but didn't at the same time.
He was the palest Mexican wrestler I have ever seen in my life. He was like Casper the Friendly Ghost. He was that white, right?
With the most Valleys accent of any Mexican you'd ever meet.
I think the promo involved me calling you a big blue lollipop,
Yeah.
because that's what he looked like. So it didn't last very long. The match was about a minute and a half,
Yeah.
maybe. And then we got in the ring after, and Titan was celebrating, and I started kicking the hell out of Dan as the bully manager that I was, I suppose.
And you also had a stint as well managing Tyson T-Bone, who's now more well known for his work with NXT UK. So how did that all come about?
Well, we kind of we lived in the same area, and through a school that was started from a promotion I was working for, he came to a training session one day, and we just became buddies straight away. And then we found out that we worked in the completely different industries, but in the building next to each other. So I saw him at lunchtime every day, and I saw him on the road. So if we weren't on a show together, we were travelling together, or going to watch a show, or just hanging out together. So I spent literally the best part of 3 or 4 years with him every day. And it just happened. It was one of those things that he was breaking out, because he started, obviously, when he came into the wrestling scene, he was like a bodyguard for someone. To get him to show experience and stuff. And I was managing back and forth and stuff, and we did quite a few matches together when we were quite green, and then it just happened. I became managing Tyson T-Bone, and I had a ball with it, to be honest. Yeah, it was good. We had a couple of really good matches that were quite noticeable, and one of them still talked about to this day. So yeah, it was real fun working Tyson T-Bone.
And what's the match then that still gets talked about?
I mean, he talks about it quite openly, and how proud of it he is still as well, which we all are who was involved with it. So it was a hair versus hair match, and it was for charity. That one match was for charity, and wanted to raise loads of money for cancer research. For one of his personal reason for him, and the papers got involved with it. Then the local radio station got involved with it. And it just started getting a lot of attention, and it was Tyson T-Bone versus Caiman. Loser gets a head shaved in the name of cancer research. So I'm obviously managing Tyson T-Bone, and we went to the local radio station. We did this big segment with the DJ there, or the radio presenter, and we decided to bring him into the show. So he was in the corner of Caiman, I was in the corner of T-Bone. During the match we had an altercation. It was just a hell of a match, and then after there was thumbtacks involved in the match. It proper went down. I shaved half of Caiman's beard off during the match. So Caiman had his jaw broken in the match by T-Bone as well. And then after the match, T-Bone had lost. I'd been removed by the presenter. And then Eugene from the WWE appeared, because he was on the show, and he helped them keep T-Bone in the ring, and then they shaved his head. So it was an incredible match, and it means a lot to us because of why we did it. So the four guys that were involved in it, it's a real cool memory that we have. So
Yeah, that sounds like an eventful match all round as well. That's I'm surprised Cayman had his jaw broke as well. I thought this was supposed to be sports entertainment, not a trip to A&E.
I know he's still waiting to give a receipt. So I know that we have actually talked about doing it one more time. With all the original, we did a podcast and we were all together for it. And we spoke about doing it one more time, but we'll see what happens.
And for yourself, Dan, as well, I remember when we chatted before, you've got quite the roll call of, well, wrestlers who've gone on to huge things over the years as well. Can you tell us a few of the names who you've worked with over the past 10 to 20 years or so?
Well, I've had a few matches with Tyson T-Bone.
Here we go.
He's never beaten me.
There we go.
I've had a few matches with T-Bone. Mark Andrews, Pete Dunne, Wild Boar, Eddie Dennis, Flash. So WWE, NXT UK. Most of most of the Welsh guys, some of the English guys I've worked with. Wade Barrett started training with us. We were his first school, so I trained a lot with Wade Barrett back in the early days. I've been on shows with Magnus, or what's his name now, Nick Aldis.
Yeah.
Who else? Spud, or Drake Maverick.
James Drake.
Had a match with James Drake. Sheamus. Drew McIntyre, the Kid Cash,
Tracy
Smothers, Eugene, Kevin Thorne. There's been a few guys that I've been around and I've got to learn off, and I've also done seminars with like Billy Kidman and D'Lo Brown, which were fantastic.
Who do you think was the best wrestler then that you ever had a match with?
That I ever had a match with? That I've ever had a match with would probably be T-Bone, but then it wouldn't be one of my favourite matches, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd say T-Bone that I've actually had, because I've been in the ring with some guys in rumbles, so only really done anything a little bits with them, but to have proper matches with, I'd probably say T-Bone would be the best, but then wouldn't have been one of my favourite matches that I've had. Sorry, T-Bone.
I mean, you mentioned quite a few stars of the industry there as well. Are there any there who you think are perhaps underrated in the position that they're with at the moment in whatever company that they're with, based on your experience of wrestling them?
I don't think Wade Barrett got his fair shot. I think he was a lot better than what he was used on TV. Same with T-Bone, to be honest. Until he joined the tag team he's in now, with Eddie and Primate. I don't think he was getting used as well as he could have. T-Bone's like a wealth of knowledge, and most of the guys, the Welsh guys at least, I know we all went to the same seminars with T-Bone and learned off him, and yeah, he is one of the best when it comes to training, and yeah, I don't think he's had the fair shot that he deserves up there.
Now, you weren't really that close friends at this point, despite having worked numerous shows together, or your paths have crossed many times over the years. When we spoke before, Blanch even said that he'd moved to South Wales, and Dan, you didn't know. You mentioned previously, before we were recording as well, that one of the reasons for this was that there was a hierarchy in the South Wales wrestling scene, which you said it isn't really so much of an issue these days. But can you give us a bit of an insight into what that was and what it was like wrestling back 5-10 years ago?
Yeah, like in the locker room for like say Celtic, say, you kind of like automatically there were certain spots in the locker room where certain people would be, and that's just how it was. Like some of the guys would go straight to the middle of the dressing room and they'd stay in the middle, and they're normally the guys that would be working more of the main events or later on the show. Then in certain venues, other rooms would be like some of the guys that would come in, like the import guys or like the young guys like Pete Dunne and stuff would be in with their little group of friends. We'd all be like socialising and stuff, and the pleasantries and everything would sound. It's just that's how it kind of was back then. It was always that kind of thing. So like, even though Smurf would be working on the card, and he'd be like on one of the first matches, I'd be with the guys planning like in the main events or something, being the manager there, and it's just that's just how it was. Like it just kind of happened naturally. It wasn't like a planned hierarchy. Just that's how it was. You kind of you mixed and stuff, but it was always those guys and us, and then in Celtic it was the same as well. Like there'd be this guys in the middle. But then the guys in the middle, the ones that people would talk to about stuff, what would you want us to do, or any ideas, and that's just how it was. It's just like you knew where you wanted to get the right information from.
It was very different back then. Wrestling has changed a lot, especially backstage and on shows. I think for the better, to be honest, because people get to know people they probably wouldn't really get to know personally. If the hierarchy was still there, sort of thing. So it is better in a way because the newer guys can learn off the more experienced guys.
Okay, and then in 2012, that's when Celtic wrestling ended, and you two, not that you really had much of a relationship anyway at this point, but this was where you both went your separate ways. Now, after Celtic had ended, were you both still involved with wrestling at that point, or had you taken a break, or?
I finished.
I was still working for a few companies. At that point I was travelling up to Scotland and doing tours up there, doing some shows in England as well. But yeah, I sort of stuck to it. Blanch had finished. And that was that. After Celtic, I talked to a few guys that was there, and then some of the other guys, because some of the guys worked for another company that I worked for, so we still talked a lot. But there was a lot of guys I lost contact with, and it was just one of those things.
And you two, you hadn't spoken to each other, you hadn't seen each other for 7 years until this bizarre chance meeting in 2019, which brought you together and formed this bromance that you're now more well known for. Can you tell us about that situation?
It is the summer, or coming into the summer of 2019. I am with my ex-partner, my partner at the time, and she is heavily pregnant. And you are with
my partner,
soon-to-be wife. She was heavily pregnant. It was very hot. we're in a room in the hospital waiting for scans, and I'm sat there, and I've been there for quite a while. Then this other couple come and sat down by us. Now, I'm being, of course, pleasant, and I'm on my phone, ignoring everyone. This couple sat down. I look up. Smurf. But now he's got this massive beard and he's got no hair. So I was like, oh my god, this is the worst day ever. I just out loud went, this is the worst day ever. I'm stuck in this really hot waiting room. You all look uncomfortable and I'm stuck here with Smurf. And he looked up from his phone and went, what are you doing here? And that was kind of it. That was literally it. The conversation just started. Then we were waiting again for another hour maybe.
Yeah.
So The women were annoyed because we were just going blah 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 blah. blah. Let's just having a real good catch up about talking wrestling and how's it going and stuff. Because I knew he was still working because I'd seen stuff on Facebook. We'd been like Facebook friends and stuff. He'd add people to him, but just started talking and that was it. Then that's it. We did it. Just this is becoming this. This is snowballed.
We just clicked and now this is what we've become.
This is what it is. Luckily, like I said, we brought up the same way in wrestling. We knew the same people. We watched the same stuff that was be as each other do. So it just happened. It just that one chance meeting because of our little girls, which were born within. They were both due on the same day, but mine was early and yours was late.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of weeks between them in age. So.
Yeah, you could have had a joint birthday as well, which would have been really bizarre.
It would have been because if they were both due on the same day, that's actually my son's birthday as well. So my daughter was due on my son's birthday. So
another three-way.
It would have been, yeah.
We're all about the three ways on the show. Was it Dan then who brought you back into wrestling then after your extended breakaway?
Kicking and screaming. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I was very much done. I was happy in my life. Well, I thought I was. I just didn't think I could go anymore. I thought it was a bit. It'd been 13 years. Well, at that point it'd been like 11 years. So it'd been a long time. I'd been out of it. I'd been doing other stuff regarding wrestling, like podcasts and stuff, during my time away. But I had done nothing physically. I wasn't in any condition to do anything physically. I'd been quite ill. But no, then he said, look, don't worry about doing anything. Just come and say hello to the lads. Just have a chat. Just watch them train. Just watch some guys train. Just be around it. Probably do you some good. And he was actually right. Don't tell him, but he was right.
It don't happen often.
Did you have any singles matches then, Blanchard, on your return, or did you immediately form a tag team with Dan?
The place we were training at, I'd got in the ring and done a little bit with some of the lads and stuff. I was more there just to be a little bit of a trainer and just put some knowledge in, and obviously we worked at different times, so I was more in the psychology and the working part. Characters work and stuff, and when to do stuff and where to do it. But then I kind of got in the ring a couple of times and did a little bit. It took me about 3 weeks to go in for actually get in the ring, so I was literally just walking around it. I just couldn't get in. And then I got in the ring, started doing some bumps, and I was like, okay, I've got some work to do, but okay, it seemed alright.
Yeah, so match-wise, it was just training matches, wasn't it? I think your first proper match back was August last year, just before the first Karnage show.
Yeah, it was August the 12th or 15th or something.
Yeah, and we had a tag match.
So that was your first match back then, was part of the tag team?
Yeah, we wrestled Jimmy Taylor and Casey Wilde in my first match back in 13 years, yeah.
And how did that feel then, stepping back into the ring for the first time in 13 years?
To be honest, the guys were amazing. They all knew the situation, and they kind of just let me just go. And I remember watching the footage back, and we did the tag match. Then we did a rumble, and I went out a little bit. I went out sooner in the rumble than you did.
Yeah.
And we had a guy filming, and he filmed my entrance and stuff in the rumble. Then he filmed Dan, and Dan was going, yeah, this is it. He's back to doing his thing, because I was just chops in and doing what I do best. Yeah, so it was much needed. It was a much needed get that out of the way kind of thing before we cracked onto Karnage.
Yeah, I think it was a good stepping stone, so to speak, for Karnage, because at that point we'd already sold out our first show.
And were you beers and beatdowns at this point?
Yeah.
You were.
How did you come up with that name then?
We both like beer. We both like.
That's the easy option.
Yeah.
The story of it is we were asked. I was coming back to be a manager, and I was asked to manage Dan for a promotion. And I was like, yeah, no problem, be more than happy to, because we spoke about this. He said, why don't you come back and manage me? Easy work, right? So promoter wanted to book it, and then he said, but I got some young lads, could you come in one day, maybe wrestle as a manager? Because it's a very different thing than wrestling as a wrestler, wrestling as a manager. I was like, mate, I tell you what, if it helps you trainees, for that one day only, we'll be a real tag team, just for one day only, and I'll be able to get through that, and there we are, one tag team match, me and Dan. Then it just like snowballed. A name came along, a logo came along, a t-shirt design came along. Then we filmed a vignette, and we were like, yeah, we could. Personally, I was like, I can do this. I can do this still. And it just happened, and we started training more. And it just we did one vignette of us walking down a corridor, and it just went off. So.
Yeah, the vignette was I think that was the test on if it'd work or not. And we made two. One of they were two of the same videos, except one we walked past the camera, and the second it showed our faces. Now the guys knew that were around us, that trained with us, knew who it was. Because they'd obviously seen my leather jacket, my denim waistcoat sort of thing before. So even though it was blurry and you couldn't see my face as I was walking down, they knew exactly who it was. But they didn't know Blanche. But then walking past the camera, we had, just off that video, no one knowing who we were. We were getting booked in different promotions. We were having messages off people saying, right, after the pandemic, can you come and work for us? And just like, yeah. After they seen our faces, they were probably like, but it is what it is.
Who's that guy?
And you're the team that everybody loves to hate, and in the shows that I've seen you at, the kids go mental when you come on. They love to, they love to hate you. They love to heckle you. They see you coming down, drinking your beer. They're doing the alcoholics chant, and I'm sitting there chuckling away to myself. It's the second match on the card. I'm already 3 pints in myself, and but do you think then that it's better being the heel team? Because when I did the episode with John, he said he preferred to be the good guy because he found it easier. So it'd be interesting to get your perspective on that.
I think it's how you look at it as well, and what you think your position on the card or the company is. See, we've done it for a reason.
Personally, I prefer being a heel. I've asked my exes, they probably don't like me as a person. So it's easier for me. It's easier to get people to hate me than it is to like me. I'm not the guy that I portray, but then some of the stuff that I do say, I do feel in real life, but I'm too afraid to say, if that makes sense. But with a tag team that the kids hate, but their fathers are like, we want to have a beer with those guys.
Well, you saw after the last show what we did, and we took over that bar, and the guys loved it, the dads loved it, everybody there loved it, the bar staff loved it. It was just, it's part of the whole deal of what BXB is. We like to entertain in a way, but if it means getting the kids to hate us at the beginning of the show, then that's what we do. And we find that it's part of, like, obviously the old mentality of what we brought up on. It was the crowd work, and we don't have to do loads and loads and loads of stuff. If you notice, people notice, because we've got them instantly when we want them anyway. So
we had a match it was a 6-man tag with Stevie Jones against Yeren Scare and Death Row a few months back, and I changed the finish mid-match. We planned the finish of the match where everyone was cheering for Death Row. They wanted Death Row in, and I thought, if we don't get Death Row in now, we're going to lose the crowd, and that ovation when he does come in eventually is not going to happen like it will if we get him in now. So I've watched if you watch the video back, Stevie's choking cue ball, I think, in the corner, and I go over to him and I say something to him, and that's basically me saying, get death row in now. And the crowd would go in, and Cue gets the tag to death row, and the crowd go nuts. And it's just like little things like that some people don't learn that can change a match for the better. Some of the stuff that we do in our matches is a lost art because we work with the crowd so we don't have to take as many bumps, sort of thing, because everyone's got a bump count. So if we can go through a match only taking 2 or 3 bumps each, then we're going to be able to go for longer, where guys doing flips and bumps off the top rope and all this sort of stuff, their bump count is going to dwindle a lot more quickly. So we work smart in a way to try and protect ourselves so we can go longer.
And I think that leads us on then to the Pro Wrestling Karnage promotion. What made you decide that you wanted to set up your own show as opposed to just appearing on everybody else's?
Wow. So I'd been thinking of it for a few years because obviously I'd been involved in a load of different companies and I'd seen the good things from each one. I'd seen the bad things from each one, and I thought if I create my own and just take all the good things from everything I've seen from all these different companies and get rid of the bad, I think it'll be a great place for guys to work and learn and go on to bigger and better things. Since Karnage have started, we've had 5 shows. 5 shows? We've had 5 shows and I've won 1 match, so it's not like it's all about me sort of thing. I did put myself in the main event for the first show, but that was a spiteful thing on my. I lost, but I wanted the match with Caiman because it'd been talked about for so long, and it just didn't happen. So I was like, I'm making sure it happens. It's basically me creating something for the younger guys to be able to come up, go on to better, bigger and better things, and like I explain it like what's it called, like
conveyor belt.
A conveyor belt. That's the one. Thank you. So the younger guys start there, they start getting their name out there, start getting bookings elsewhere, move on to bigger and better things. They finish with us, and then it just keeps going. And that's the plan, and we've seen it work. Like James Ellis had a few matches with another promotion that I was with that I left. He decided to leave as well. I said, right, go and train wherever you can. When the shows finally start after this pandemic thing, we'll get you on. And I think he's consistently had match of the night every show. Without a doubt, he's had match of the night every show. And now he's working up in England, and he's working the Slam Masters in Wales, VCW, Welsh Wrestling. The kid's going to go far.
This is more of a platform for the next generation of young wrestlers who are coming through. But Blanch as well, you're also a champion within that promotion as well, and I believe you've brought your belt with you as well. You're the current Outbreak champion. Can you tell us what that championship involves?
So obviously we've got a heavyweight champion, which is Caiman. So this is the mid-card belt. So the idea of me having the bout was, I believe, to get the next person ready for them to have the bout. So we get to the platform where I'm hated enough or whatever, so somebody comes in and beats me. So I have defended it once against Kenny Mantra, which obviously, as you can see, didn't go well for him. But it's all about getting the person ready for the next. So it's about us building something.
And who are you going to be defending the belt against then on Saturday?
Because of management, I am defending it again against Kenny Mantra.
How do you think you're going to get on?
Oh, he's going to win.
Yeah, of
Without a
course. I'm
doubt.
probably going to smash him in about 4 minutes this time. Fed up of his nonsense, to be honest. We want to be at the point where we don't have to actually wrestle.
I want to be like how you look now with the headphones backstage, with the walkie-talkie, like Paul Heyman back in the old ECW days. That's where I want to be. I want to be behind the backstage, in front of the monitor backstage with the headphones on, the walkie ready in case I need to talk to the referee. I'll be happy with that. I'll still take bookings elsewhere, but I want to be to the point where the roster is too stacked for me to actually work for my own company.
We know who's going to be involved in the Outbreak Championship. We know who's going to be involved in the Heavyweight Championship as well. But can you also let us know who else we can expect to see on the show this weekend?
We've got two guys debuting. We've got Sam Best, the Welsh, the English Emperor of Wales, coming down for the first time in about 3 or 4 years. And we've got TJ Skye as well, who's been pretty much everywhere.
He's been around Europe and stuff. He's been everywhere.
TJ's going to be facing James Ellis. So another big test for James Ellis. And Sam Best is going to be in a triple threat #1 contendership for the Outbreak title against Necrofago and Darcy Dekill.
Either way, it's not going to make a difference.
So, if you could have anybody on a future show within the realms of, realism, who would you pick? And if you wanted to use this as a bit of a soft invitation to try to tempt them to join you on a future show, who would it be?
Oh, his list is ridiculous.
There's so many. Well, Scotty Tuati was over a few weeks ago, and I would have loved to have had Scotty.
However, if we get Scotty, we want Rikishi too. Because I want to put some hurt on him.
Yeah.
I really want to work a Hall of Famer. It's one of my bucket list things now.
So it'd be Scotty Tuati and Rikishi. But then if we're talking, British wrestling, it'd be the legends. It'd be like Doug Williams, people like that. That I'd want. Which I think is achievable, to be fair.
So if anybody does want to go to the show this Saturday, if you can give them another reminder of where it's being held, what time it's starting, where they can get tickets, and all of those details.
Yeah, it starts at 5:30, in Pencoed Welfare Hall in Pencoed.
Near Bridgend.
Bridgend. Tickets are available on the Eventbrite site. You can go on Eventbrite and search Pro Wrestling Karnage, or if you go straight to our Instagram, Facebook, you can find the links on there because we usually have the latest show pinned at the top anyway, so you can go straight to the ticket link from there.
And this show is called Krash Bang Karnage.
We thought we'd have a comic book theme.
That's one of my favourite jobs as well. What we're going to do in this show? What are we going to call it?
That was your idea.
When I heard the name for that, I instantly thought of Alan Partridge. Have you seen the episode where he does Crash Bang Wallop?
Yeah. Crash Bang. No, I thought of the comic book thing and the old Batman. When there's punch and be wham and bam and stuff, and Krash Bang Karnage. So it just happened.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit about the show that you've also got planned then for Saturday the 4th of June? Because I understand that's a pretty special show that you're setting up.
Yeah, it's our first charity show. All the guys in credit to them, because it's for charity, are going to be working free. The venue have given it to us pretty cheap compared to what it usually cost us, so we're very grateful for that as well. It's for a little boy called Ollie. He's on the list for a heart transplant. He's got heart failure. I can't remember the actual name for the heart failure that he does have. But the parents have got a GoFundMe going for all the charities that have helped them since he's been born. The Ronald McDonald Foundation, which have given housing close to the hospital, so they don't have to, go and pay for hotels and that sort of stuff. They either pay for hotels for them, or they give them some sort of, flat or something to live in for a few weeks. Noah's Ark Hospital.
Great Ormond Street. The Royal Bristol Hospital as well.
Of children, yeah. There's a couple, and all the money that we raise from the show are going to be split between those four charities. The parents are going to be there, and the family members. Ollie's got an older brother, so he'll be there. The mum and dad, and hopefully we can pack it out and we can make some good money for charity.
And if anyone wants to get more details on that, or wants to get tickets for that show, is there anything different that they need to do, or can they get them in the same way as the show that's taking place this weekend?
Same way, go to Eventbrite and search Pro Wrestling Karnage, or go on to our Facebook page and the link will be up there.
I've got to say as well, just a thanks to everyone since we've announced the 4th of June show for Ollie, all for Ollie. The social media aspect and the advertising has been incredible. We've had thousands and tens of thousands of shares and hits and likes, and people have seen it and stuff. So we really, really appreciate that. We just want to raise as much money as possible for Ollie and his family, and for these charities that are doing a great thing to help this little boy who's a proper warrior. So so we're really grateful that it's been received really well, and the guys that have said straight away, I'm in, let's do it, I want to be part of it. So we really, really appreciate it. We just want to raise a shed load of money for them.
Yeah, as we said, hopefully we can just make as much money as we can for them. See, we're not bad guys, really.
No, we're dads still, It's just Ollie's a warrior, and we just, Dan's got like 47 children, so so it's just we're dads, and a lot of the guys are. It's just something we're quite passionate about. Is this, so when we were asked about it, then it was a definite. There was no questions asked. It was a yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it's an amazing cause, and it's fantastic that you've got everybody on board. They can all see the value in doing the show, and I'm sure that it's going to be a huge success as well. So I'll get the links from yourselves as well after we've wrapped up here, and I'll put those and underneath the video in the description and whatever, so everybody's going to get easy access if they want to find out more information about that, and also about the show that's taking place this weekend as well. So I think that's probably a good place to end things there. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I wish you all the best with your future shows, although maybe not all the best. You are the bad guys, so I can't really show you too much support.
You love us, really.
You'll be there at the bar afterwards.
Yeah, you'll be sharing a beer with us after.
Yeah, that probably will be the case, given my previous form at other wrestling shows. So yeah, I will be looking forward to seeing you in that respect as well.
We'll probably end up serving you, because we take over bars now.
Apparently, that's the thing.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me on the show today, and I'll catch up with you both very, very soon.
Cheers, brother. Thanks very much.
If you enjoy Engage, please show your support at engagersclub.com, our exclusive members-only club with enough content, training, and behind-the-scenes access to keep you going until the next episode. That's engagersclub.com. Also, please rate and review this podcast wherever you download them. Stay engaged.